and today we are going to read another chapter of The Jungle Book. I have my lunch snack right here. My boss made a great zebra cake. It's delicious. So this chapter is called Tiger Tiger. So this here says, at the beginning of the chapter is Tiger, Tiger. And it says, "What of the hunting, hunter bold? Brother, the watch was long and cold. What of the quarry you went to kill? Brother, he crops in the jungle still. Where is the power that made your pride? Brother, it ebbs from my flank and side. Brother, I go to my lair to die." That's the poem that begins this chapter. Oh, powdered sugar on the desk. When Mowgli left the wolf's cave after the fight with the pack at the Council Rock, he went down to the plowed lands where the villagers lived. But he would not stop there because it was too near to the jungle, and he knew that he had made at least one bad enemy at the council. So he hurried on, keeping to the rough road that ran down the valley, and followed it at a steady jog trot for nearly 20 miles, till he came to a country that he did not know. The valley opened out into a great plain, dotted over with rocks and cut up with ravines. At one end stood a little village, and at the other the thick jungle came down in a sweep to the grazing grounds and stopped there as though it had been cut off with a hoe. All over the plain, cattle and buffaloes were grazing, and when the little boys in charge of the herds saw Mowgli, they shouted and ran away, and the yellow pariah dogs that hang about every Indian village barked. Mowgli walked on, for he was feeling hungry. But when he came to the village gate, he saw the big thorn bush that was drawn up before the gate at twilight pushed to one side. "Hello, DIY Craftsy. Thank you. Hello, Riley Miller. Welcome, everybody's welcome here. I'm reading out loud. I'm reading The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling. "Oomph," he said, as he had come across more than one such barricade in his night rambles after things to eat. "So men are afraid of the people of the jungle here also." He sat down by the gate, and when a man came out, he stood up, opened his mouth, and pointed down it to show that he wanted food. The man stared and ran back up the one street of the village, shouting for the priest, who was a big fat man dressed in white, with a red and yellow mark on his forehead. The priest came to the gate, and with him at least 100 people who stared and talked and shouted and pointed at Mowgli. "They have no manners, these men folk," said Mowgli to himself. "Only the great ape would behave as they do." So he threw back his long hair and frowned at the crowd. "What is there to be afraid of?" said the priest. "Look at the marks on his arms and legs. They are the bites of wolves. He is but a wolf child run away from the jungle." Of course, in playing together, the cubs had often nipped Mowgli harder than they intended, and there were white scars all over his arms and legs. But he would have been the last person in the world to call these bites, for he knew what real biting meant. "Arre, arre," said 2 or 3 women together. To be bitten by wolves, poor child, he is a handsome boy. He has eyes like red fire. By my honor, Mesua, he is not unlike thy boy that was taken by the tiger. Let me look, said a woman with heavy copper rings, with heavy copper rings on her wrists and ankles, and she peered at Mowgli under the palm of her hand. Indeed, he is not. He is thinner, but he has the very look of my boy. The priest was a clever man, and he knew that Mesua was wife to the richest villager in the place. So he looked up at the sky for a minute and said solemnly, "What the jungle has taken, the jungle has restored. Take the boy into thy house, my sister, and forget not to honor the priest who sees so far into the lives of men." Hi everybody. Hello to India and to everywhere that you guys are watching from. I'm in California, but everybody's welcome. Please gather around and listen to my story, or the story I'm reading. It's not really my story. But yes, hit me with a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe if you want to see me again. I love you. I appreciate all your support, and I appreciate most of all if you gather around and read with me. Okay, by the bull that bought me, said Mowgli to himself, but all this talking is like another looking over by the pack. Well, if I am a man I must be. The crowd parted as the woman beckoned Mowgli to her hut, where there was a red lacquered bedstead and a great earthen grain chest with funny raised patterns on it, half a dozen copper cooking pots, an image of a Hindu god in a little alcove, and on the wall a real looking glass, such as they sell in the country fairs for 8 cents. She gave him a long drink of milk and some bread, and then she laid her hand on his head and looked into his eyes, for she thought perhaps that he might be her real son, come back from the jungle where the tiger had taken him. So she said, "Nato, oh Nato." Mowgli did not show that he knew the name. "Dost thou not remember the day when I gave thee thy new shoes?" She touched his foot, and it was almost as hard as a thorn. "No," she said sorrowfully, "these feet have never worn shoes, but thou art very like my Natho, and thou shalt be my son." Mowgli was uneasy because he had never been under the roof before, but as he looked at the thatch, he saw that he could tear it out any time if he wanted to get away, and that the window has no fastenings. "What is the good of a man," he said to himself at last, "if he does not understand man's talk? Now I am as silly and dumb as a man would be with us in the jungle. I must speak their talk." He had not learned while he was with the wolves to imitate the challenge of bucks in the jungle and the grunt of the little wild pig for fun. So, as soon as the Mesua pronounced a word, Mowgli would imitate it almost perfectly, and before dark he had learned the name of many things in the hut. There was a difficulty at bedtime because Mowgli would not sleep under anything that looked so like a panther trap as that hut. And when they shut the door, he went through the window. "Give him his will," said Mesua's husband. "Remember that he can never that he can never till now have slept on a bed. If he is indeed sent in the place of our son, he will not run away." So Mowgli stretched himself in some long, clean grass at the edge of the field, but before he had closed his eyes, a soft gray nose poked him under the chin. "Phew," said Gray Brother. He was the eldest of Mother Wolf's cubs. "This is a poor reward for following the 20 miles. Thou smellest of wood smoke and cattle, altogether like a man already. Wake, little brother, I bring news." "Are all well in the jungle?" said Mowgli, hugging him. "All except the wolves that were burned with the red flower. Now, listen. Shere Khan has gone away to hunt far off till his coat grows again, or he is badly singed. When he returns, he swears that he will lay thy bones in the Wainganga. There are 2 words to that. I also have made a little promise. But news is always good. I am tired tonight, very tired with new things, Gray Brother. But bring me the news always. Thou wilt not forget thou art a wolf? Men will not make thee forget?" said Gray Wolf anxiously. "Never. I will always remember that I love thee and all in our cave. But also I will always remember that I have been cast out of the pack, and that thou mayest be cast out of another pack. Men are only men, little brother, and their talk is like the talk of frogs in a pond. When I come down here again, I will wait for thee in the bamboos at the edge of the grazing ground." For 3 months after that night, Mowgli hardly ever left the village gate. He was so busy learning the ways and customs of men. First, he had to wear a cloth around him, which annoyed him horribly. And then he had to learn about money, which he did not in the least understand, and about plowing, of which he did not see the use. Then the little children in the village made him very angry. Luckily, the law of the jungle had taught him to keep his temper, for in the jungle, life and food depend on keeping your temper. But when they made fun of him because he could not play games or fly kites, or because he mispronounced some word, only the knowledge that it was unsportsmanlike to kill little naked cubs kept him from picking them up and breaking them in two. He did not know his own strength in the least. In the jungle, he knew he was weak compared to the beasts, but in the village, people said that he was as strong as a bull. He certainly had no notion of what fear was, for when the village priest told him that the god in the temple would be angry with him if he ate the priest's mangoes, he picked up the image, brought it over to the priest's house, and asked the priest to make the god angry, and he would be happy to fight him. It was a horrible scandal, but the priest hushed it up, and Messua's husband paid much good silver to comfort the god. And Mowgli had not the faintest idea of the difference that caste makes between man and man. When the potter's donkey slipped in a clay pit, Mowgli hauled it out by the tail and helped to stack the pots for their journey to the market at Kanhinwara. That was very shocking too, for the potter is a low-caste man, and his donkey is worse. When the priest scolded him, Mowgli threatened to put him on the donkey too, and the priest told Messua's husband that Mowgli had better be set to work as soon as possible, and the village head man told Mowgli that he would have to go out with the buffaloes next day and herd them while they grazed. No one was more pleased than Mowgli, and that night, because he had been appointed a servant of the village, as it were, he went off to a circle that met every evening on a masonry platform under the great fig tree. It was the village club, and the headman, and the watchman, and the barber, who knew all the gossip of the village, and the old Boldio, and the village hunter, who had a tower musket, met and smoked. The monkeys sat and talked in the upper branches, and there was a hole under the platform there where a cobra lived. And he had a little platter of milk every night because he was sick. Oh, and he had, this is the cobra. Let me see. Upper branches. And there was a hole under the platform where a cobra lived, and he had a little platter of milk every night because he was sacred. And the old men sat around the tree and talked and pulled at the big hugas, the water pipes. Oh, hugas. Pulled at the big hugas till far into the night. Let me see what's going on here. Nice earlobe. Okay, thank you. Oh my goodness. I'm not preaching, Randy. I'm reading, but I will keep on reading. Thank you for giving me a thumbs up, everybody that has supported me. And thank you for gathering around and reading. Hookahs, the water pipes, till far into the night. They told wonderful tales of gods and men and ghosts, and Boldio told even more wonderful ones of the ways of beasts in the jungle, till the eyes of the children sitting outside the circle bulged out of their heads. Most of the tales were about animals, for the jungle was always at their door. The deer and the wild pig grubbed up their crops, and now and again the tiger carried off a man at twilight, within sight of the village gates. Mowgli, who naturally knew something about what they were talking of, had to cover his face not to show that he was laughing, while Boldio, the tower musket across his knees, climbed on from one wonderful story to another, and Mowgli's shoulders shook. Boldio was explaining how the tiger had carried away Messua's son, how the tiger who had carried, yes? Boldio was explaining how the tiger that had carried away Messua's son was a ghost tiger, and his body was inhabited by the ghost of a wicked old moneylender who had died some years ago. And I know that this is true, he said, because Perun Das always limped from the blow that he got in a riot when his account books were burned. And the tiger that I speak of, he limps too, for the tracks of his pads are unequal. True, that must be the truth, said the graybeards, nodding together. Are all these tales such cobwebs and moon talk? Said Mowgli. That tiger limps because he was born lame, as everyone knows. To talk of the soul of a moneylender in a beast that never had the courage of a jackal is child's talk. Boldio was speechless with surprise for a moment, and the headman stared. Oh-ho! He says, "Oh-ho! Is it the jungle brat, is it?" said Boldio. "If thou art so wise, better bring him his hide to Kanhiwara, for the government has set 100 rupees on his life. Better still, talk not when thy elders speak." Mowgli rose to go. "All evening I have lain here listening," he called back over his shoulder, "and except once or twice, Boldio has not said one word of truth concerning the jungle, which is at his very doors. How then shall I believe the tales of ghosts and gods and goblins, which he says he has seen. It is full time that boy went to herding, said the headman while Buldeo puffed and snorted at Mowgli's impertinence. Let's see if I may finish this chapter today. I don't think so. Not before my lunch is over. The custom of most Indian villages is for a few boys to take the cattle and buffaloes out to graze in the early morning and bring them back at night. And the very cattle that would trample a white man to death allow themselves to be banged and bullied and shouted at by children that hardly come up to their noses. So long as the boys keep with the herds, they are safe, for not even the tiger will charge at a mob of cattle. But if they straggle to pick flowers or hunt lizards, they are sometimes carried off. Mowgli went through the village street in the dawn, sitting on the back of Rama, the great herd bull, and the salty blue buffaloes with their long, backward sweeping horns and savage eyes rose out of the byres one by one and followed him. And Mowgli made it very clear to the children with him that he was the master. He beat the buffaloes with a long, polished bamboo and told Kamya, one of the boys, to graze the cattle by themselves while he went on with the buffaloes, and to be very careful not to stray away from the herd. An Indian grazing ground is all rocks and scrubs and tussocks and little ravines among which the herds scatter and disappear. The buffaloes generally keep to the pools and muddy places, where they lie wallowing or basking in the warm mud for hours. Mowgli drove them on to the edge of the plain, where the Wainganga came out of the jungle. Then he dropped from Rama's neck, trotted off to a bamboo clump, and found Gray Brother. "Ah," said Gray Brother, "I have waited here many days. What is the meaning of this cattle herding work?" "It is an order," said Mowgli. "I am a village herder for a while. What news of Shere Khan?" "He has come to this country, and has waited here a long time for thee. Now he has gone off again, for the game is scarce, but he means to kill thee." "Very good," said Mowgli. "So long as he is away, do thou or one of the four brothers sit on that rock, so that I can see thee as I come out of the village. When he comes back, wait for me in the ravine by the dak tree, in the center of the plain. We need not walk into Shere Khan's mouth." Then Mowgli picked out a shady place and lay down and slept, while the buffaloes grazed around him. Herding in India is one of the laziest things in the world. The cattle move and crunch and lie down and move on again, and they do not even low. They only grunt, and the buffaloes very seldom say anything, but get down into the muddy pools one after another and work their way into the mud till only their noses and staring china blue eyes show above the surface, and then they lie like logs. The sun makes the rocks dance in the heat, and the herd children hear one kite, never any more, whistling almost out of sight overhead, and they know that if they died or a cow died, that kite would sweep down, and then the next kite miles away would see him drop and follow, and the next, and almost before they were dead, there would be a score of hungry kites come out of nowhere. Then they sleep and wake again, and weave little baskets of dried grass and put grasshoppers in them, or catch 2 praying mantises and make them fight, or string a necklace of red and black jungle nuts, or watch lizards baking on a rock, or a snake hunting for a frog, for a frog near the wallows. Then they sing long, long songs with odd native quavers at the end of them, and the day seems longer than most people's whole lives. And perhaps they make a mud castle with mud figures of men and horses. Oh, with mud figures of men and horses and buffaloes, and put reeds into the men's hands and pretend that they are kings, and the figures that there are their armies, or that they are gods to be worshipped. Then evening comes and the children call, and the buffaloes lumber up out of the sticky mud with noises like gunshots going off one after another, and they all straying across the gray plain back to the twinkling village lights. Day after day, Mowgli would lead the buffaloes out to their wallows, and day after day he would see Gray Brothers back a mile and a half away across the plain, so he knew that Shere Khan had not come back. And day after day, he would lie on the grass listening to the noises around him and dreaming of old days in the jungle. If Shere Khan had made a false step with his lame paw up in the jungles by the Wainganga, Mowgli would have heard him in those long, still mornings. At last, a day came when he did not see Gray Brother at the signal place, and he laughed and headed the buffaloes for the ravine by the dak tree, which was all covered with golden red flowers. There sat Gray Brother, every bristle on his back lifted. He has hidden for a month to throw thee off thy guard. He crossed the ranges last night with Tabaki, hot foot on thy trail, said the wolf, panting. Mowgli frowned. I am not afraid of Shere Khan, but Tabaki is very cunning. Have no fear, said Gray Brother, licking his lips a little. I met Tabaki in the dawn. Now he is telling all his wisdom to the kites, but he told me everything before I broke his back. Shere Khan's plan is to wait for thee at the village gate this evening, for thee and for no one else. He is lying up now in the big dry ravine by the Wainganga. Has he eaten today, or does he hunt empty? Said Mowgli, for the answer meant life and death to him. Oh, fool, fool, what a cub it is, eaten and drunk too, and he thinks that, life and death to him. Sorry, I missed the spot. I missed the line. He killed at dawn, a pig, and he has drunk too. Remember, Shere Khan could never fast, even for the sake of revenge. Oh, fool, fool, what a cub it is. Eaten and drunk too, and he thinks that I shall wait till he has slept. Now, where does he lie up? If there were but 10 of us, we might put him down as he lies. These buffaloes will not charge unless they wind him, and I cannot speak their language. Can we get behind his tracks so that they may smell it? He swam far down the Wainganga to cut that off, said Gray Brother. Tabaki told him that I know. He would never have thought of it alone. Tabaki told him that, I know. He would never have thought of it alone. Mowgli stood with his fingers in his mouth, thinking, the big ravine of the Wainganga, that opens out to the plain, not half a mile from here. I can take the herd round through the jungle to the head of the ravine and then sweep down, but he would sink out at the foot. We must block that end. Gray Brother, canst thou cut the herd in two for me? No, perhaps, but I have brought a wise helper. Gray Brother trotted off and dropped into a hole. Then there lifted up a huge gray head that Mowgli knew well, and the hot air was filled with the most desolate cry of all the jungle, the hunting howl of a wolf at midday. Akela! Akela! Said Mowgli, clapping his hands. I might have known that thou wouldst not forget me. We have a big work in hand. Cut the herd in two, Akela. Keep the cows and calves together, and the bulls and the plow buffaloes by themselves. The two wolves ran, ladies' chain fashion, in and out of the herd, which snorted and threw up its head, and separated into two clumps. In one, the cow buffaloes stood with their calves in the center, and glared and pawed, ready, if a wolf would only stay still, to charge down and trample the life out of him. In the other, the bulls and the young bulls snorted and stamped, but though they looked more imposing, they were much less dangerous, for they had no calves to protect. No 6 men could have divided the herd so neatly. What orders? Panted Akela. They are trying to join again. Excuse me. I'm going to take a little bite. All right. Mowgli slipped onto Rama's back. Drive the bulls to the left, Akela. Great brother, when we are gone, hold the cows together and drive them into the foot of the ravine. How far? Said Great Brother, panting and snapping. Till the sides are higher than Shere Khan can jump, shouted Mowgli. Keep them there till we come down. The bulls swept off as Akela bade, and Great Brother stopped in front of the cows. They charged down on him, and he ran just before them to the foot of the ravine, as Akela drove the bulls far to the left. Well done! Another charge, and they are fairly started. Careful now, careful, Akela. A snap too much, and the bulls will charge. Hoo-yah! This is wilder work than driving black buck. Didst thou think these creatures could move so swiftly? Mowgli called. I have hunted these two in my time, gasped Akela in the dust. Shall I turn them into the jungle? Aye, turn, swiftly turn them. Rama is mad with rage. Oh, if I could only tell him that I need him today. The bulls were turned to the right this time and crashed into the standing thicket. The other herd children, watching with the cattle half a mile away, hurried to the village as fast as their legs could carry them, crying that the buffaloes had gone mad and run away. But Mowgli's plan was simple enough. All he wanted to do was make a big circle uphill and get at the head of the ravine, and then take the bulls down and catch Shere Khan between the bulls and the cows. For he knew that after a meal and a full drink, Shere Khan would not be in condition to fight or clamber up the sides of the ravine. He was soothing the buffaloes now by voice, and Akela had dropped far to the rear, only whimpering once or twice to hurry the rear guard. It was a long, long circle, for they did not wish to get too near the ravine and give Shere Khan warning. At last, Mowgli rounded up the bewildered herd at the head of the ravine itself. From that height you could see across the tops of the trees, down to the plains below. But what Mowgli looked at was the sides of the ravine, and he saw with a great deal of satisfaction that the creepers that hung over them would give no foothold to a tiger who wanted to get out. Let them breathe, Akila, he said, holding up his hand. They have not winded him yet. Let them breathe. I must tell Shere Khan who comes. We have him in the trap. He put his hands in his mouth and shouted down the ravine. It was almost like shouting down a tunnel. And the echoes jumped from rock to rock. After a long time, there came back the drawling, sleepy snarl of a full-fed tiger just wakened. Who calls? Said Shere Khan, and a splendid peacock fluttered up out of the ravine screeching. I, Mowgli, cattle thief, it is time to come to the council rock. Down, hurry them down, Akila. Down, Rama, down. The herd paused for an instant at the edge of the slope, but Akila gave tongue in the full hunting yell, and they pitched over one over the other, just as streamers shoot rapids, the sand and stones spurting up around them. Once started, there was no chance of stopping, and before they were fairly in the bed of the ravine, Rama winded Shere Khan and bellowed. Ha ha! Said Mowgli in his back. Now thou knowest. And the torrent of black horns, foaming muzzles, and staring eyes whirled down the ravine just as boulders go down in flood time. The weaker buffaloes being shouldered out to the sides of the ravine where they tore through the creepers. They knew what the business was before them, the terrible charge of the buffalo herd against which no tiger can hope to stand. Shere Khan heard the thunder of their hoofs, picked himself up, and lumbered down the ravine, looking from side to side for some way to escape. But the walls of the ravine were straight and he had no hold on, heavy with his dinner and his drink, willing to do anything rather than fight. The herd splashed through the pool he had just left, bellowing till the narrow cut rang. Mowgli heard an answering bellow from the foot of the ravine, saw Shere Khan turn. The tiger knew if the worst came to worst, it was better to meet the bulls than the cows with their calves. And then Rama tripped, stumbled, and went on again over something soft, and, with the bulls at his heels, crashed full into the other herd, while the weaker buffaloes were lifted clean off their feet by the shock of the meeting. That charge carried both herds into the plain, goring and stamping and snorting. Mowgli watched this time and slipped off Rama's neck, laying about him right and left with his stick. Quick, Akila! Break them up! Scatter them, or they will be fighting one another. Drive them away. Akila, hi! Rama, hi, hi, hi! My children! Softly now, softly! It is all over. Akila and Grey Brother ran to and fro, nipping the buffalo's legs, and though the herd wheeled once to charge up the ravine again, Mowgli managed to turn Rama, and the others followed him to the wallows. Shere Khan needed no more trampling. He was dead, and the kites were coming for him already. Brothers, that was a dog's death, said Mowgli, feeling for the knife he always carried in a sheath round his neck now that he lived with men. But he would never have shown fight. Voila! This hide will look well on the council rock. We must get to work swiftly. A boy trained among men would never have dreamed of skinning a 10-foot tiger alone. But Mowgli knew better than anyone else how an animal's skin is fitted on and how it can be taken off. But it was hard work, and Mowgli slashed and tore and grunted for an hour, while the wolves while the wolves lolled out their tongues or came forward and tugged as he ordered them. Presently, a hand fell on his shoulder, and looking up, he saw Buldeo with a tower musket. The children had told the village about the buffalo stampede, and Buldeo went out angrily, only too anxious to correct Mowgli for not taking better care of the herd. The wolves dropped out of sight as soon as they saw the man coming. "What is this folly?" said Buldeo angrily. "To think that thou canst skin a tiger? Where did the buffaloes kill him? It is the lame tiger, too, and there is 100 rupees on his head. Well, well, we will look over thy letting the herd run off, and perhaps I will give thee one of the rupees of the reward when I have taken the skin to Kaniwara." He fumbled in his waistcloth for flint and steel, and stooped down the singe where Shere Khan's whiskers where Shere Khan's whiskers, yeah. Oh, and stooped down to singe Shere Khan's whiskers. He was gonna singe Shere Khan's whiskers. Most native hunters always singe a tiger's whiskers to prevent his ghost from haunting them. Said Mowgli, half to himself as he ripped back the skin of a forepaw. "So thou wilt take the hide to Kanhiwara for the reward, and perhaps give me 1 rupee? Now it is in my mind that I need the skin for my own use. Heh, old man, take away that fire." "What talk is this?" to the chief hunter of the village. "Thy luck and the stupidity of thy buffaloes have helped thee to this kill. The tiger has just fed, or he would have gone properly like little beggar rat, and forsooth, I, Buldeo, must be told not to singe his whiskers. Mowgli, I will not give thee 1 anna of the reward, but only a very big beating. Leave the carcass." "By the bull that bought me," said Mowgli, who was trying to get at the shoulder, "I must stay babbling to an old ape all noon. Here, Akela, this man plagues me." Buldeo, who was still stooping over Shere Khan's head, found himself sprawling on the grass with a gray wolf standing over him, while Mowgli went on skinning as though he were alone in all India. "Yes," he said between his teeth, "thou art altogether right, Buldeo. Thou wilt never give me 1 anna of the reward. There is an old war between this lame tiger and myself, a very old war, and I have won." To do Buldeo justice, if he had been 10 years younger, he would have taken his chance with Akela had he met the wolf in the woods. But a wolf who obeyed the orders of this boy, who had private wars with man-eating tigers, was not a common animal. It was sorcery, magic of the worst kind, thought Buldeo, and he wondered whether the amulet round his neck would protect him. He lay as still, expecting every minute to see Mowgli turn into a tiger too. "Mahara! Great King!" he said at last in a husky whisper. "Yes," said Mowgli without turning his head, chuckling a little. "I am an old man. I did not know that thou wast anything more than a herd's boy. May I rise up and go away, or will thy servant tear me to pieces?" "Go, and peace be with thee. Only another time do not meddle with my game. Let him go, Akela." Buldeo hobbled away to the village as fast as he could, looking back over his shoulder in case Mowgli should change his mind, should change into something terrible. Change into something terrible. He thinks that Mowgli's gonna turn into an animal. Let me see until. Let him go, Akila. Okay. Looking over his shoulder in case Mowgli should turn into something terrible. When he got to the village, he told a tale of magic and enchantments and sorcery that made the priest look very grave. Mowgli went on with his work, but it was nearly twilight before he and the wolves had drawn the great gay skin clear of the body. Now, we must hide this and take the buffaloes home. Help me herd them, Akila. The herd rounded up in the misty twilight, and when they got near the village, Mowgli saw lights and heard the conches and bells in the temple blowing and banging. Half the village seemed to be waiting for him by the gate. That is because I have killed Shere Khan, he said to himself. But a shower of stones whistled about his ears, and the villagers shouted, "Sorcerer! Wolf's brat! Jungle demon, go away! Get hence quickly, or the priest will turn thee into a wolf again! Shoot, Boldio, shoot!" The old tower musket went off with a bang, and a young buffalo bellowed in pain. "More sorcery!" shouted the villagers. "He can turn bullets. Boldio, that was thy buffalo." "Now what is this?" said Mowgli, bewildered as the stones flew thicker. "They are not unlike the pack, these brothers of thine," said Akila, sitting down composedly. "It is in my head that if bullets mean anything, they would cast thee out." "Wolf!" they were yelling. "Wolf! Wolf's cub, go away!" shouted the priest, waving a spring of the sacred tulsi plant. "Again? Last time it was because I was a man. This time it is because I am a wolf. Let us go, Akila." Okay, and I'm going to mark the book and I'm going to call it quits for right now. Thank you for reading with me, everybody. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you like listening to me and reading with me. I appreciate it greatly. Subscribe if you want to see me again. All right? Take care. Be safe, readers and scholars. I love y'all.